Welcome to Famous People, English Stories. Ready to level up your English? Here we learn through stories slow, clear, and fun. Listen, relax, and enjoy the journey.
Introduction. I remember sitting in my first English conversation class, smiling nervously, pretending I understood what the teacher was saying. In reality, I caught maybe every third word. My mind was like an old radio with bad reception. Some words came through clearly, others were just static. At that time, my English was what you might call patchy. Patchy means uneven or inconsistent. I could say hello, how are you, but if someone answered too quickly, I froze. I had memorized phrases for school, but real-life conversations? They were like chasing a moving train. By the time I understood the first sentence, the conversation had already moved on. It wasn't that I didn't study. I had been through years of grammar exercises, memorized lists of irregular verbs, and read those classic English dialogues in textbooks. But here's the truth, my English lived only on paper. Spoken English, the kind that flows naturally, felt like a different language altogether. And then, one day, I stumbled upon a method that changed everything. To stumble upon means to find something by accident. I wasn't looking for a magic solution, but what I found turned into the breakthrough I had been waiting for. This method didn't come from a classroom. It didn't require expensive books or fancy courses. It came from noticing how native speakers actually used the language, their rhythm, their expressions, their shortcuts. It was like stepping behind the scenes of a movie and finally seeing how the magic was made. In this video, I'm going to share exactly what I did, why it worked, and how you can do the same, no matter where you're starting from. And along the way, I'll explain useful words and phrases so you can expand your vocabulary while learning the strategy. Because here's the thing, improving your English isn't about cramming more rules into your brain. It's about unlocking the part of you that's already ready to speak. You just need the right key. Section 1. My starting point, how bad my English really was. If you had met me back then, you might have thought, oh, this person knows some English. I could introduce myself, ask for directions, even order a coffee. But the moment the conversation went beyond the safe zone, I was lost. My sentences were full of hesitation. I used the word thing for everything. Can you give me that do you thing? Or I need to go to the you thing. I relied on generic words. Generic means not specific or detailed, because I couldn't remember the exact term I needed. If I wanted to say the battery is dead, I would say the power thing is not working. It was clumsy, and it made me sound less confident than I actually was. Listening was even harder. When native speakers talked to each other, it felt like the words were glued together. To glue together means to stick so tightly you can't separate the pieces. For example, instead of clearly saying, "What are you doing?" they'd say, "What ya doin'?" And my brain had no idea how to handle it. My grammar wasn't terrible on paper, but in conversation, it collapsed. I might start a sentence in the past tense, then accidentally switch to present tense halfway through. I would say things like, "Yesterday I go to the store and I buy," because I was so focused on surviving the sentence that I forgot the rules. And here's something embarrassing. I avoided talking to native speakers whenever possible. Not because I didn't want to, but because I was afraid of the awkward silence. Awkward silence is when everyone suddenly stops talking and the pause feels uncomfortable. I imagined them thinking, wow, this person's English is terrible, even if they weren't thinking that at all. It wasn't just a language problem, it was a confidence problem. My English wasn't natural, and deep down, I knew it. I felt like I was always playing catch-up, running after conversations but never quite catching them. Looking back, I realized that my English wasn't bad in the sense of hopeless. It was just trapped in a box, the box of classroom English. And the only way out would be to break the box completely. Section 2, The Turning Point, What I Discovered That Changed Everything. The big change didn't happen in a classroom or during a lesson. It happened one evening when I was watching a TV series in English. I wasn't studying, I was just relaxing. At first, I had the subtitles on in my own language. But after a while, I got curious and switched them to English. That tiny decision was the start of something completely different. For the first time, I could connect the sounds I was hearing to the words I was seeing. And something surprising happened. I noticed that English on the page was not the same as English in real life. People weren't speaking in perfect grammar book sentences. They were cutting words, merging sounds, and using expressions I had never seen in any textbook. One phrase that stuck with me was "I'm beat." I had no idea what that meant, but from the scene, I guessed it wasn't about physically hitting something. Later I learned it means "I'm very tired." That's when it hit me. If I only learned English from grammar exercises, I would never discover phrases like this. I started writing these expressions down in a small notebook. Expressions like "no big deal," "it's not a problem," "hang on," "wait a moment," or "spill the beans," "reveal a secret." These were the pieces of the puzzle I had been missing, the real English people actually used every day. This approach didn't feel like homework. It felt like unlocking a secret language. And because I was hearing these phrases in context means within a real situation or story, I remembered them much faster. I wasn't memorizing random words. I was collecting tools I could use immediately in conversations. That's when I realized something important. Improving my English wasn't about learning more rules, it was about learning the right patterns. Once I started focusing on how English was actually spoken, instead of how it looked in a textbook, everything began to change. And that discovery became the foundation for a new way of practicing that transformed my speaking in a matter of months. Section 3. The exact techniques I used and why they worked. Once I understood that real English was different from textbook English, I built a system around it. It wasn't complicated, but it was consistent, and consistency was the secret ingredient. Consistency means doing something regularly without long breaks. Technique 1. Shadowing. Shadowing is when you listen to a native speaker and repeat what they say immediately, almost like an echo. I started with short TV clips or YouTube videos. At first, I sounded clumsy, but that was fine. The goal was not perfection. It was training my mouth and ears to work together. I noticed that I began to copy the rhythm and intonation, the rise and fall of the voice, without even thinking about it. Technique 2. My 3 new phrases rule. Every day, I learned 3 new phrases I had actually heard that day. Not random dictionary words, but things real people said. For example, "That's a good call, that's a smart decision," or "I'll pass, I don't want to do that right now." By limiting it to 3, I actually remembered and used them. Technique 3. Talking to myself. Yes, I talked to myself out loud. This might sound strange, but it was powerful. If I didn't know how to say something, I'd stop, look it up, and then repeat it until it felt natural. This built my muscle memory, the ability to do something automatically without thinking too hard. Technique 4. Context over translation. I stopped translating every word into my native language. Instead, I tried to guess the meaning from the context. Context means the situation or surrounding words that help you understand the meaning. This trained my brain to think in English instead of constantly switching back and forth. The key was not just learning these techniques, it was doing them every single day, even for 15 minutes. Over time, my sentences became smoother, my vocabulary richer, and my confidence higher. I stopped translating my thoughts and started simply speaking. What I learned is this: you don't need 1,000 complicated methods. You just need a few simple ones you actually use, and use them consistently. Section 4. Surprising results and why it worked faster than expected. I expected progress to be slow, maybe a tiny improvement after several months. But within just a few weeks, I noticed something unusual. Conversations that once felt like running through mud started to flow. Flow here means moving smoothly without constant stops. I could follow TV shows without needing subtitles all the time. And in real conversations, I didn't freeze as often. My brain was finally catching the words as they came. One of the biggest surprises was how quickly my listening comprehension improved. Comprehension means understanding. I realized that by shadowing, I had been training my ears to recognize connected speech, those glued together sounds that used to confuse me. Suddenly, "What do you want to do?" no longer sounded like a single mystery word. Another unexpected change was in my confidence. Before, I spoke quietly, afraid to make mistakes. Now, I noticed I was speaking louder and more naturally. Even if I still made errors, I kept going. I had shifted from aiming for perfection to aiming for connection. Connection means actually communicating your message and understanding others, which is the real goal of language. And perhaps the most shocking moment came when a native speaker told me, "Wow, your English sounds so natural." That comment was like fuel for my motivation. Fuel here means something that gives you energy to keep going. Looking back, I think it worked so fast because I was learning in the way the brain naturally likes to learn, through real patterns, repetition, and meaningful use. I wasn't just memorizing, I was living the language a little bit every day. This is why I believe anyone, no matter their starting level, can make real progress faster than they think, if they focus on real English used in real situations every single day. Conclusion. When I think back to the version of myself who avoided conversations, who froze at the sound of fast English, I almost don't recognize that person anymore. The change didn't come from a magic textbook or a secret app, it came from paying attention to real English, practicing it daily, and being brave enough to sound awkward while learning. If there's one thing I want you to remember from this video, it's this: fluency is not a talent you are born with, it's a skill you build. And like any skill, the more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Even 10 to 15 minutes of focused, real-world English practice every day can transform your speaking and listening faster than you imagine. Don't wait for the perfect moment to start, it doesn't exist. Start with what you have today. Watch a short clip in English and shadow it. Learn 3 phrases you can actually use. Talk to yourself out loud. Keep a notebook of expressions. These tiny steps, done consistently, will do more for your fluency than years of passive learning. Remember the vocabulary from today, words like patchy, inconsistent, awkward silence, an uncomfortable pause, context, the situation that gives meaning, and fuel, something that gives energy. Use them in your own sentences today, because vocabulary only becomes yours when you use it. So here's my challenge for you. Choose one of the techniques from this video and use it today. Not tomorrow, not next week, as today. Leave a comment telling me which one you picked and how you used it. I want this to be the moment you look back on and say, "That's when my English started to change." You don't have to speak perfectly to speak powerfully. You just have to start and keep going. If you're serious about improving your English, don't just watch this video, act on it. Pick one technique you learned today, try it right now, and then tell me in the comments how it went. And if you found this helpful, subscribe so you don't miss the next lesson that could completely change your English. Your fluency won't wait, and neither should you.